welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Glad to have you here today with us. If you're a first-time listener, welcome to the program. We are love that you found us, and we love to have you on board. Please don't forget to comment. We like the engagement. Now, for those who are returning, of course, I have to say thank you. We'll stop barking about this soon, but thanks to your listening and our great guests, which we have a great one today, this show has skyrocketed into the top 10 fastest growing podcasts in the world. Well, that's a pretty good accomplishment for you folks because of one thing. There are over 1 million podcasts in the marketplace today. So a little bit of house cleaning, just like normal, before we get started with our guest today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you don't like where you are listening to it right now, you can certainly tune in on 23 different podcast platforms. So wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. Also, you can find us on the major social media outlets, and always go to the website for the show, rexandrewsshow.com, because we have bios, information, links about all of our guests. So previous, current, and future. So enjoy the show, engage with us, and check out all the interesting people we work with. Okay, so today, a great guest. It's fun when I get to do these introductions because people have various different lists. And so today, our guest has quite a bit of list. We're going to mention a few of them, and I know we're not going to be inclusive, but these, it's kind of a who's my guest today. So she's been on major media of almost all types. So all the major channels: ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, you name it. She was a family therapist for over 24 years. She's been an educational sociologist, a military veteran. Okay, so that's the qualification that we don't always find on all of our guests. She has worked in the film industry, so many of those who might be familiar with that are going to recognize her name. And she just recently put out her first album. This lady does a lot. She's an author, 2 books already, working on a 3rd, and we'll talk about that. And she's endorsed by all kinds of people in her books. People with relationships and all kinds of stuff and crazy. And then the other thing, she's a ghostwriter, but not what you think in the typical sense. A ghostwriter that actually writes letters for people. So I don't know what else to explain to you. We're short on the list here. We're probably going to have enough content here to do many shows, but we're going to attempt to see where we go today to at least get an introduction to her. So I'd like to introduce Kristie Grant. Kristie, how are you today?
Oh, Rex, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to connecting with you and your wonderful audience.
Well, fantastic. Well, Kristie, we always play this little game as we go along here because sometimes our listeners are multitasking. And so those who are watching on YouTube can actually see her website over her shoulder. But if you could, would you please share with our audience your website and the proper spelling so that way they know on how to get a hold of you so they can play along as we go today?
Absolutely. Okay. So my main website is Christine with a K, like Kris Kringle. So KristineGrant.com.
Okay.
My other website for my music now, because I have a performer's name for that, which is Tina Rose. It's a derivative of my name. My middle name is Rose, and all my Latina friends call me Tina. So I thought that sounds great, like a musician. The other name sounds more like a therapist type person. So it's TinaRoseMusic.com.
All right, fantastic. Now, she has given us a secret, folks, if you're listening in. She's got a gift for everybody, but we'll share that at the end of the show because we don't want to get so excited that we get distracted on the gift today. So, Kristie, what we like to do on the show, because our show is all about people's stories, interesting topics. And at the root of that is the story, the backstory, as they would say today, about how'd you get there? So, we like to always listen real quick about, what's the backstory? Where did you grow up? Where were you born? How many siblings do you have? Do you still talk to any of them? Not exactly like that. Did you wrestle with them? I don't know these things, but your siblings, your family life, what your parents did for a living or may still do, because that also influences things. Things you might have been interested in as a child. Maybe that was something, a passion you picked up, or something you decided not doing that again. And then, kind of hopscotch through your education, and then Then we'll get into your work, the things that you're doing and the things you're focusing on today, which there's no way we're going to get through all that in one day as far as the rest of the things, because I know I'm going to have you back. And I know we're going to talk about your new book. So if you could, and don't get worried, I will remind you of all my crazy questions. So let's start off. Where were you born, and what did your family look like?
Okay. Wow. So this is all about me.
It is.
All right. So I was born in the Bay Area, a town called San Mateo. We lived in Millbrae, and that's in California. Lived there. My family actually moved to the city of Martinez on the East Bay. My dad worked in a hardware store when he met my mother, who was a nurse. They were married 6 weeks after they met.
Oh my goodness, 6
Yes.
weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
My mom is Irish Catholic. My sister has her citizenship, as do many of my 45 first cousins, I might add.
Oh my goodness.
And so my dad was not Catholic. She made him become a Catholic. So while he was studying his catechism before the marriage, he said to my mom, "Hey, Eileen, maybe we should wait until after Lent to get married." Her response, Otto, "I'll probably have somebody new by then." So they got married and had 5 children.
Oh,
my
that's
dad,
great.
my dad joined the police force at one point and worked his way up to being the chief of police of Martinez.
Okay.
Yeah. And then with raising all those kids, I don't believe in those days it was a quote civil service job, and he basically wasn't making enough money. So my parents moved to San Clemente, which is in Southern California.
Yep.
And actually, I think President Nixon, way back in the day, I was a little kid, had a home there. And my father kept his papers up from the war. He joined the Coast Guard when he was 17 and then was in the Merchant Marines.
Mm-hmm.
He then became a civilian officer for the Navy. So he was gone quite a bit. I was 11 or 12 when we moved to Southern California. And as a result of that, or I don't know as a result, but we kids, I was the middle of 5, we did learn to live life kind of on our own terms much of the time, to be honest.
Okay.
I left home at a very early age. I was 17. I graduated from high school a year early, and I was always an artist. My parents didn't really support that notion. They were very practical, conservative people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up leaving, and I moved to Hawaii, to the island of Maui.
Okay.
And I lived there until I was about 19. Actually, one day I was walking down the beach in Waikiki, and a man said, "Is your name Christine?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, you look just like the girl. Her father's been looking for her for weeks." And because I was a rambunctious, independent young person, I didn't bother to contact mom and dad too often. And my father flew to Hawaii to look for me.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. While I was there, I had done some acting on TV shows. I drove a Boston Whaler and gave parasailing rides. I mean, I was having so much fun hanging out with amazing people that I happened to meet. I used to surf. The Hawaii experience ended that for me. I have the scars on my shins to prove it, because the waves were so big.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I came home. My father, after finding me, convinced me to come home, go to college.
Okay.
Again, I wasn't being supported in the arts. My older brother said, "Why don't you join the Army?" And I said, "What?" "Yeah, that way you can travel. You can go to Europe. They'll make you like a secretary or something." So I said, "Okay." And I did. And that is a whole story that will be coming up in my next book I am writing. But truly, I was in many a sense of the word, I was like Private Benjamin the first. In fact, I met Goldie Hawn once.
Sure.
And I told her of my story because I had written a script around the blonde surfer girl that goes to Germany to be in the army. Where are the condos? And that was, and the professor that I took this class from worked for MGM, and he picked my brains for over 2 hours. About a year later, if that, the Goldie Hawn movie was out. It was very,
oh my goodness.
yes, not the entire story, but it was heavily flavored with some of my own experiences. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Well, I guess you take credit for that one, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
So since you asked, Rex, and everybody's going to wade through my story, I came back from the military. I went to college. I majored in art because one of my instructors was sending my artwork to juried contests. And unbeknownst to me, I had art pieces that won. And I thought that was always my calling, to be an artist. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then the conditioning of the childhood stepped in. And lo and behold, I didn't become a fine artist, which is what I really love, painting, drawing, all that. I became a graphic designer and went to work in the field of advertising and moved to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And,
So how many years did you serve in the military, in the Army?
can I say it? Fortunately, only 2.
2. Well, you did your stint. That's what counts.
Yes, they had an option at the time where you could serve 2 years if you had the choice of either what your military occupation would be or your station where they would send you. So I was sent to Europe.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was very amazing experience on so many levels. I'll just put it that way.
So did you go to Berlin then, or where were you in Europe?
Yes. Well, it wasn't Berlin. I was sent to the first station was Pirmasens on the French border in Germany, a little Dorf, famous for its shoes. I'm kind of a girly girl, so they were all kind of clodhoppers in my opinion. But anyway, I lasted a week before I cried my way out of there.
Oh,
literally.
my.
Yes, there was no way I was going to stay in this little town for a year and a half at that point. So I was then sent to the largest military post outside of the United States, Kaiserslautern, and they didn't have a place for me to stay, so they gave me extra money, and I lived on the economy, as they put it, in the town above a pizza parlor.
Oh, wow.
And drove a moped to the base every day. They eventually, well, I'm going really into the story and I shouldn't, but I was trained as a multi-channel equipment operator with pulse code sound modulation equipment in the day. They may not even have that today, but I literally was I learned to drive a 2.5-ton truck, put up 75-foot antennas in the middle of the forest, a 5 1/4 Jeep I drove. But, I really wasn't geared up for that. And so they ended up sending me to typing school, and I ended up writing articles for the local magazine. They were very tongue-in-cheek for a young girl, but nobody seemed to catch on. So it was my own dry sense of humor, I suppose. Okay. And eventually I asked to be transferred again and ended up being a swimming instructor for children at the local Schwimmbad, and was stationed in another place called Heilbronn, which is right between Heidelberg and Stuttgart. Mm-hmm. So yeah, lots of the traveling I did was phenomenal at the time. From Tunisia to North Africa, skied all the best places. I mean, it had its merits, but the culture wasn't in alignment with me overall. But that's coming up in a book.
Okay, well, we don't want to give away all your books today.
No,
so, that's for sure. So you got done with the military. You come back to California. Is that when you got into being a family therapist, or what was the next stop? What was the next stop?
As I said, with my graphic design degree, I ended up working in advertising, and it wasn't really what I loved. Then from there, I was able to meet the right people and get a job working in the film industry.
Okay.
So when I say the film industry, it wasn't acting at the time, although I did a lot of extra work. I worked for a company called Cast Locations, which they sold the properties or the locations for films. And so I did scouting and I ended up managing the company and I loved it. It was so much fun. I met all these movie stars, was taken to lunch and just, oh, it was memorable. From there, it wasn't paying quite enough. And my brother owned a real estate agency in South Central Los Angeles. I spent 5 years of my life living in between USC and Hancock Park and selling turn of the century homes and diamonds in the roughs, as they were, old craftsmen and bungalows. And I did very well with that. I was great. I enjoyed it. I love meeting people. I love helping. And I happened to meet the man that I married and moved away. Yes. So, yes. So that's the background.
Okay. So where did love take you since you moved away from LA then?
I married a physician. I was set up on a blind date. One of the neighbors in the community was setting me up on a blind date, and the blind date did not appear at his house. So my friend Michael said, "Oh, I feel so embarrassed. My friend, he called at the last minute and said he just couldn't make it. So why don't I take you to dinner?" And so we went to dinner, and then afterwards we went to his house. He was lived a few blocks away, and he said, "Let's watch a movie, have a glass of wine." And the next thing, the doorbell rings and this man comes in, and it was this friend of his from out of the area who was visiting, and he gave him a key to his place if he ever needed a place to crash. And that's how I met my husband.
Oh, wow.
We ended up going to a wedding on our first date.
Well, that's an interesting first date.
Yes, it was a Catholic wedding. He's not Catholic. And as we drove into the wedding, he parked his car in the Monsignor's parking stall. And I said, "What do you think you're doing?" He said, I'm running late." He said, "Turn around." I said, "Why?" He goes, "I got to put the wedding outfit on. I'm in the party." So it was really an interesting first date. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever known anybody that's gone on a date to a wedding the first date. That's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. So we got married about 3 years later, and he was quite an adventurer. In fact, he's dradventure.com. But we traveled the far reaches of the planet. And when I say that, we got engaged in a hot air balloon off the Serengeti. We took camels across the desert in Pakistan and camped out for weeks. We climbed Mount Rainier together. We went all through India and in the Himalayas, had skied everywhere, scuba dived. So yeah, it was quite an adventure. Marriage didn't last. We were together for 13 years.
Okay.
But we are good friends to this day.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So you finished up the real estate career. Love took you out of there. What was next?
Then when I was married to him, he was a physician, family physician. And because we love to travel, and the real estate in his area, because he lived in a rural area, was not the same culture as I was used to, selling the old, diamond in the rough homes. Rather, it was finding land for people and tract homes. And it was, in my opinion, I found it rather dull. So I decided to go back to college and get a graduate degree in counseling. And from there, I went into the field of family therapy. We have a daughter, and when she was, it was hard to be a therapist with those hours and have a child. So at one point when she was pretty young, I went back to school again and became a school psychologist as well. So I could actually take her to school with me and in her younger years. And I've worked with students with children of all ages. We adopted our daughter as a baby, a newborn. and we weren't looking to adopt. So it was a very interesting situation. You'll have to read about it in my book. Nevertheless, my daughter is just an amazing young woman. And as I mentioned, the marriage didn't last. So I became a single mom when she was fairly young.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also what spurred me to become a school psychologist. So I could have a lifestyle that would match up with being a single mom and spending that quality time with her.
Okay.
So,
were you still in California then?
yes, still in California. That's when we moved to the San Diego area.
Okay.
By the time my daughter was in middle school, and I'm just going to come out and say it, she is so physically beautiful, beautiful on the inside and out. When she was not even 3 years old, she woke me up one morning and said, "Mommy, I had the most beautiful dream." "Really? What was your dream?" I dream that I be in a rainbow room of color talking to a lady in a long blue dress. I said, "Really? What did she say?" "Mommy, she said, kindness and love are the colors of my heart." I jumped out of bed and I said, "Whose heart?" "My heart, Mommy. Kindness and love are the colors of my heart." And she still remembers that dream. She's 25. Yeah. So she's just a delight. And at any rate, when she was around the age of 11 and 12, middle school years, and that is tender turf for most children.
Sure.
Developmentally. They get their first pimples. They are starting to develop physically, hormonally, mentally.
Sure.
And it's all about my identity and who accepts me and where do I belong. So unfortunately, for some reason, my daughter was terribly picked on by, quote, mean girls. They were awful and obnoxious. And I won't go into all the nasty things they did to her, but my heart really went out. And even though I was a school psychologist, though at this time in a different district, the administration at her school was not very helpful or supportive.
Right.
So I took it upon myself to travel to the East Coast to the National Mean Girls Conference. Yeah, you got that right. The National Mean Girls Conference, and where there was probably close to 1,000 people there, all educators and therapists and parents, teachers, whatever. And the subject was bullying. It's really become a huge deal, as we all know.
Not making light of this, but just where my crazy brain went. So did they have mean girls on stage as guest appearance speakers?
No, they had nice ones. They had really nice ones. And some of them had stories.
Okay.
There's a song out there. Oh gosh, I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember the title, but it goes, I am a weirdo. Do you remember that song? I'm a weirdo. You don't remember that one?
No,
Okay. All
no.
right. Well, anyway,
I'll be looking it up after the show. I'll tell you
some of our friends out here might remember it, but
sure.
But one of the girls sang that song. So there were young people there that had gone through being targeted, or perhaps had gone through the place of being the, quote, bully, or the bystander. Sorry about that, bystander. Right. And that's the person that sits there and doesn't do anything. They're sort of frozen in, I don't want to offend anybody and I don't know what to do and I'm really uncomfortable, but I'm going to go with the kid that looks like they have the most power, because it really is about power grabbing. And in our world today, I think we could probably, see that might be part of human nature, is, that struggle to feel empowered. How you go about that, does it make you happy? Yeah. It's the kind of empowerment that I like to pass on to kids that is more satisfying and helps them to develop into courageously kind and beautiful souls. So I ended up, after going to this conference, again, I happened to meet the producers of this conference who gave me a ride to the airport in Orlando, Florida. It was a 5-minute drive. We had a chance to meet and discuss our stories. And I shared my predicament, or my daughter's predicament, but as her parent, my sorrow and sadness around the bullying epic, or I don't want to say, it's not a pandemic, but yeah, I guess it is. And so, not to say it's not always been there, but with the cyber world and such, it's really grown out of proportions. At any rate, they asked me to speak at their conference the following year in Vegas. I went home, and nearly a year later, I did get the invitation from them. About a month after that, I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to speak at a national conference. I need a product. So I then, inside of a month, and it was downloaded. In other words, the information in my book called Be Friendship Focused, as in BFF, by Christine Grant, was sort of channeled into me. I would wake up in the middle of the night and have to write down an exercise for children. So part of my background, I skipped over and didn't mention, is I also was an alternative healer and did energy work with people. In other words, if it all kind of plays upon one another or is connected, the mind, the emotions, the body, we're electromagnetic beings. And that's not a woo-woo statement, because Omni Magazine verified 30, 40 years ago that, yes, we have an electromagnetic field about us. And that's, I believe, why some people, when you meet them, you have an instant sense of ease, and others you're not so, attracted to. Okay. That's another line. Back to this. So I wrote the Be Friendship Focused guide. And after working in schools and seeing a limited amount of personnel or support for kids with this overwhelming bullying thing going on, not to mention all the other social emotional issues kids have growing up within broken homes, socioeconomic conditions, you name it. It goes on. So I wrote this book, and my daughter and I created the A to Z power cards, which was a very cathartic exercise for Alana. That's her name. So one morning I said, Alana, because we're both artistic, let's paint pretty pictures. We're going to do this card deck. We're going to create a deck of cards with a power word and an inspirational thought, because kids love manipulatives. They love it if you give them something they can have a conversation with. And in other words, you're not going to have a child come in and say, so John, how's it going today? I don't know. It's like, hey, John, I got something for you. Pick a card, like an oracle. And they'll pick something, and it might be a painting of a horse, and the word is noble. And you go, gosh, noble. That sounds like a really old-fashioned word. What does that even mean? Have you heard that before? And that's where you can, and how do you apply that in your world? So that's how the conversation starts. Anyway, so we did these 26 paintings for every word in the alphabet in the course of a weekend.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had everything done, printed up, and 3 weeks later, I was in Orlando delivering my talk and promoting the book and the cards. And this went on for about 2 years.
Wow.
So
Okay.
selling the cards and the books was really great, because it helped to offset my travel expenses.
In your time, sure.
I spoke for the Girl Scouts of America, New Orleans, East Coast Division, and they compensated me. But by and large, unless you're a big name out there, a keynote, people that are out there speaking at these conferences, they do it out of the goodness of their heart. And for me, I wasn't looking to do bestsellers. I was looking to help children. So 2 years down the road, when we were in San Antonio, I was approached by a publisher, and Youth Light books. And so I published with them and went from there. More recently, I have brought my rights back and we repurposed the book. We added more content, refreshed it, if you will. And we actually included each card inside the pages of the book. So it's kind of cool.
Now, is that book on Amazon or available on your website?
I don't know that it made it to my website yet.
Okay.
It may have, but I know it's on Amazon. It's in Barnes and Noble, I believe.
Okay.
It's with a publisher called Beyond Publishing.
Okay.
And it's called Be Friendship Focused. And it's a 10-week process for mentors. In other words, it could be a parent that helps their kids even, or teacher that has an after-school program, or somebody that works for the 4-H club or Girl Scouts. And it's for boys as well. It's yeah, so it's both. So it also churches have purchased it.
Well, that's pretty amazing to you, because I've always, when people write books and they tell me about that, I usually stop and say, hey, what was the motivator that did that? And, what was a lengthy process? And wow, you did it inside of a month. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I really believe, and I'm sorry if I come off to your audience as being too woo, as in woo-woo, but I believe that God, the divine, really was encouraging me to do this.
Okay.
It was something that I could not go through this life without doing. And so, that's how much I love children.
Okay. Do they still have the Mean Girl Conference?
I'm not sure if they do. They may with COVID, how everything, but I spoke at a lot of conferences that had to do with children's behaviors.
Okay.
And even this past year, I worked with severely emotionally disturbed teens via telephone. The school district I contracted with didn't feel Zoom was, giving enough confidentiality. So it was telephone calls, and it was really hard. You can imagine their suicide rate is up, a lot of depression, a lot of family decomposition going on. I'll put it that way. This one young man, he was 15 and he was very forlorn, very down. And I said to him, he lived in a city which is lower socioeconomic in the San Diego area. I imagine he lived in an apartment. I said to him, so, okay, enough about you. What have you done for someone else lately? He said, what do you mean? Because kids are very egocentric.
Yeah, sure.
It's all about me. And so I said, well, yeah, I mean, who do you admire and who do you respect and who do you love and who do you cherish in your life? And we spoke about that. And I said, and what about even a stranger? So your homework assignment is, it could be something as simple as perhaps giving a parent a genuine compliment, because that's a gift.
Sure.
Or some act of kindness. So the following week, I call him up. How's it going? He said, well, I couldn't wait to tell you. I said, what? He said, there's this little kid in my neighborhood. He's like 6 or 7 years old. His family, the parents were arguing so much that the dad was hauled away by the police in handcuffs. And his dad cannot come back. And this little guy, he's having major depression. Oh, really? Okay. So he had diagnosed this young boy. I said, so tell me, what about that? He said, well, I always knew he wanted to be a baseball player when he grew up. So I went to a kid's store and I got a baseball and a bat and a glove. And my mom had a balloon, one of those fancy balloons, and we tied it all together. I laid it down in front of his door. I rang the doorbell and ran as fast as I could. I said, you mean you didn't stick around for the thank you or anything? He said, oh, no. I just wanted him to have that. I said, how you been feeling? He said, I can't tell you. I haven't felt this great in a long time. So I want to remind all of us to sometimes, get out of our own way.
Yeah.
I spoke on a news program, Fox News once, about the Student March for Our Lives. And I spoke about being a crisis intervention counselor once at a high school. And they sent two young girls to see me because they were so vicious towards one another. And each of them had their own little social gang.
Sure.
And they were the epitome of mean girl.
Okay.
So I had the two girls came in, I had them sit down, face one another, and hold hands. Can you imagine two arch enemies facing one another, looking in each other's eyes and holding hands? And I said, repeat these words after me. It's a simple truth. When I was just a little girl, all I really wanted was to feel loved, accepted, and connected. And that's all I want now.
Sure.
And the two girls went, really? Yeah, really, do it. So they had to say this proclamation to one another, and they could barely speak it when they each burst into tears, hugged it out, and left my office.
Left your office. Wow.
So 2 months later, one of them approaches me and she said, did you hear about our heart circle? What? Your heart circle? Yeah. After we spoke to you that day, well, we told all our friends about it. And now we have over 65 teenagers after school once a week on the lawn holding hands, and we each tell a simple truth. Yeah. So,
Great.
So the power of suggestion to open somebody's heart and to be vulnerable is really powerful in the best sense of the word.
So pivoting here a little bit, tell us a little bit about your book, The Relationshift.
Okay.
The one that's right there over your shoulder. I've been dying to know about it.
Okay. This book really is my pride and joy in that it is a 335-page sampling of the intervention for helping people to dynamically shift in a good way, the relationship with others and even themselves through a very novel approach that serendipitously came about 17 years ago. So as a family therapist, as someone with, I don't know, gift of gab, maybe? What do you think? Okay, so
I'm not having to sit here and lead the witness very much, I'm not having to say, Christine, can you tell me a little more about that? I mean, hey, Christine, can you expand on that just a little bit? So how'd that make you feel, Christine?
Anyway, I'm such a giver. No, so
yeah.
Well,
as long as you look at it that way, we'll accept it, right?
Okay. So anyhow, because when you are a therapist type person, counselor, friends and family will often approach you with their own issue and see if, they can get some free feedback. Cool. So I had a neighbor many years ago. She came over and she said, can I get your advice? Sure. She said, I've been dating this guy, and this woman had her kids, I think, were either in a high school or, already adults. And she really wanted to have a partner. She actually wanted to get married again.
Okay.
And so she met this guy and she said, he's wonderful. He's such a catch. He's an attorney. He's really sweet. He's intelligent, blah, blah, blah. And I keep waiting for that chemistry thing to show up. And I just don't want to kiss him. And now he's sending flowers. And she goes, and I'm feeling worse. So I said to this neighbor, okay, if the shoe were on the other foot, would you want someone to lead you down some primrose path? I mean, really? And so you need to come clean and just tell the truth. It's not, it doesn't make him wrong. She said, oh, no, I'm really, I just suck at that. I probably would end up feeling really embarrassed because I hurt his feelings because I said something wrong. So I said, all right, well then, if that's how you feel, why don't you just get a nice card, write your feelings in a note and give it to him. Next time you see him, and say something simple like, I'm so glad we met. And I've been thinking about you, and I just wanted to be really clear on how this is all showing up for me. Here you go. Something simple. Yeah, that sounds good. So she writes this note, she brings it over, and it was the old, it's all about me. It's me story, not you. I'm terrible at relationships. I don't want a relationship. All this defensive, self-effacing. No. So I tore the letter up, and I rewrote a note, and I handed it to her, and she goes, "Oh my God, this is so perfect." Well, she gave it to him. They became friends. He actually ended up doing all of her legal paperwork for a case she had coming up. And life went on, and she then started asking me for more letters and messages for other situations. Then her friends started calling me. Then I was getting phone calls from the East Coast. And, and it was so simple and easy for me because I don't have someone's ego. I don't have their pain point. But I've trained in psychotherapy. I'm a very intuitive person, and I feel things all the time, and I could feel and sense what the other individual that I never even met was going through, what the reaction might be. So as a result, one woman about 4 years down the road.
Okay, now hold on. I want to come back to the one woman down 4 years down the road.
Sure.
We've got to finish the thought here. What happened to the lady who couldn't give him the Dear John letter?
Oh, she gave it to him.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. But then what happened?
Then they became
friends. He wrote the legal. But what was the final story? Did he?
He married someone else.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right. Beautiful woman, I might add.
Okay.
And that they've been married probably 8 or 10 years. Like I said, this was a neighbor that approached me, not a quote client.
Right.
And they remained friends.
Okay.
So mission accomplished. It worked very good. It worked.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was some fairy tale knight in shining armor kind of thing that turned around the corner.
Well, he got his princess. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
He ended up on the winning end of things. And she eventually moved away, and I'm not really sure we lost touch with where her life headed. Sorry about that.
So let's go back. I was waiting for the final, what happened.
Oh, that all of a sudden she would turn and say,
yeah.
Oh, no. If you don't have the chemistry.
No, I know that. Sure. So
you can't make this stuff up, right?
Right. Can't force it. I was just wondering if there was this grandiose end of the story for the lady, She learned from your wonderful letters, and now she's, I don't know,
she was a stepping stone. Okay. Right. A stepping stone into the world of writing, composing, customized, if you want to say the word ghost writing, letters for others. And as one client put it, she said, it's your heart, or my heart, your words. So as an author or as a consultant counselor, I say it's your heart, my words. I get the words, just like what was downloaded through that Be Friendship Focus book. Right. I have an uncanny way of just picking up what needs to be said.
Okay. So did you ever throw up a website and become like the Dear John lady or something?
Yes, I am. Well, the book is it's an informative, but it's not a lecture. It's sort of like a chicken soup for the soul. It is all, I pulled out several, like I said, I've written over 400 letters. So goodness. In the book, there's probably a sampling of around 70, 75 little vignettes, little intriguing stories that span across not just people that are dating or wanting to fall in love or find partnership, but also for people who want to, spark their marriage or reheat the souffle in their committed relationship, or people that are divorced or contemplating divorce, people that have children that need to co-parent. The kids are on the suffering end of that, right?
Sure.
Or blended family issues. Someone is I'm so in love with my husband, but his daughters hate me. Okay. Or friendship fallouts. And one of my biggest letter requests, and this is something that is not openly discussed so much in the media
Okay.
as that I've discovered, estrangement. It's embarrassing, but there is so many people that haven't spoken to their parent, their child, their sibling,
Sure.
another relative. Could be weeks, could be months, could be years, could be several decades.
Sure.
I've helped people that have not spoken to a loved one in one mother, 16 years, her three
Wow.
sons. She's living with one of the sons now.
So if I'm understanding correctly, because my mind goes all over the place wondering, make sure I have this right, the Relationshift is really a whole set of vignettes and stories about how to communicate at these
Yes.
various different, I don't know, pivot points in life or needs to communicate.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yes, it is. It helps the reader or the audience to align with the fact that they're not alone, because so many of these riffs and issues are based in common themes. It may take a different picture according to the theater or the play that's, playing out in your family or your relationship, but the ultimate lesson is pretty common, because we share a lot as humans and we learn so much through our relationship struggles.
Sure.
If you're paying attention. If you're not, then you're going to, guess what? You're going to have the same old, and it'll become, a habitual thing. And then eventually people turn into, I have this one section I write on the shutdowns, some, and people that are, oh yeah, that's a quote hater. That person they've had it with women or they've had it with men. Their relationships have not gone well. And those people can actually develop a group mentality. So yeah, they all hang out together and they go out, think they're having fun, and it's putting down that guy or that girl or that woman or that man. And then if one of their friends happens to find someone, make a great connection, and maybe even get married or have a committed partnership, then the rest of the group is mad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they left the herd. What? So but yeah, there's a lot of insights in my book. As I said, it's been acknowledged and endorsed by many, many people. I've got testimonials galore from people that have profited from my communication service.
Okay.
And I also help people that want to write their own letters as well. I can give them a lot of coaching on that, even editing, because let's face it, if I'm having an issue with somebody, I might have my culture, my background, my life experience, my conditioning that goes into play, the thoughts about how I feel about myself, maybe what I wish I could change about myself, who knows? And all that comes into the mix, whereas someone else, such as myself, can leap over all of that. We don't carry that emotional bag.
Sure.
We have our own baggage.
Yeah.
Everybody has emotional baggage. My little saying is, yeah, that's true, but actually only one carry-on is allowed. The rest is just way too costly. It's a drag.
It's funny you mentioned that. Way back in the day when I was traveling, most of my career had been in high tech, and I used to travel a lot. There was a day we bought jet fuel every week. That was just part of the business, and so I got to be a master of travel. With one carry-on, and you realize you have a certain set that's all you can take. And I would always tell my kids that life is a lot like a carry-on bag. If you want to stuff something else in it, you got to take something out. And so that's it. That's all you can carry. And so don't think that you can pick up this new thing or situation, whatever, unless you unload something else.
Rex, that is so true. That speaks to me. And isn't it interesting that we're having our interview, our program today when spring has just begun? And so I'm going to put a call out, a shout out. Hey, get some spring cleaning on your relationships.
Yeah.
Let's clear the air.
Yep.
Seriously.
Reach out and clean out some of those cobwebs, take out the dirty socks, whatever it happens to be, right?
Yeah. And don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. Don't live in the land of assumption, assuming the person doesn't care about you anymore or this or that. Sometimes I will write a letter for someone and they will have this aha moment reading the letter. I'll share one. I have so many stories on that, but I'll share one that's super interesting. This one gal wanted to have an affair, seriously, and she was married for nearly 10 years to a nice guy, and they had 2 young children. And why did she want to have that affair? Well, she thought he was boring. He was a computer nerd, blah, blah, blah. So we had lunch, and I helped her to take a deeper dive into all of his merits, why she married him and fell in love with him to begin with,
right?
And the thoughtful random acts of kindness that he had done along the way. So she said, "You know what? I really need you to write a love letter to my husband." Okay, so I did, and she called. Don't laugh. See, you're laughing because I know people.
I know. It's just the proxy man in me, just thinking about proxy writing letters. But, okay,
go ahead. It was her. It's her heart.
Yeah, I understand.
Helping to channel in the words. Okay.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
It's so I write this letter. She calls me up and she goes, "Oh my God, that letter. I need your book immediately." So she gets the book. And because this service, this inspired heart letter service is not counseling. I don't hold on to clients for months and years to come. Although they can be repeat clients, but it's sort of, an encounter. I help them, their life switches, and then I can help support them with the newfound ahas. But really, the letter writing is the focus. So I ran into her about 2 or 3 months later, and I said, "How are you doing?" And she said, "Oh my God, I am so in love." And I said, "Really? With who?" Because remember, she wanted to have that
right
affair.
Yeah, she wanted to have an affair.
Said, "My husband." And I said, "Oh my gosh, he loved that letter, did he?" She said, "Christine, I never gave him the letter." "What? You didn't give him the letter?" No. I threaten him about once a week, and I say, "Honey, I have the most passionate, amazing, beautiful letter you will ever receive. And you'll have it one day, but not yet. So look on your pillow. Some night it'll be there." And it drives him crazy. And I said, "Well, my goodness, well, why are you all in love?" And she said, "Christine, I read the letter. All she needed to do was be reminded to sort it out." And that's how I helped her in that particular instance. She saw that she was the contributor to the blah, blah marriage, not necessarily
him. It was her issue. Sure.
And it takes 2 to tango, right?
Yeah, it does. Well, there's that old saying of be the person you want to be loved. So,
Beautifully said. Love that.
Yeah, so the way to do that. So I know you're talking about another book you're up and coming writing, and that's going to be another whole topic because I am going to have you back. What else are you doing these days? I mean, what are you focused on right now? Is it mostly writing, or are you doing any therapy, or what occupies a lot of your time? I know you just released an album, right?
Thank you for saying that. Yes. Yeah. So, while so many of us are in lockdown mode, and by the way, don't let your heart lock down, but
sure.
This gave me an opportunity to really complete a bucket list. I mean, I mentioned earlier in the show all the different lanes in life I've traveled. It feels sometimes like I've lived a zillion lives in this one. But there was always something I love to do. And I think it's the artist in me, the intuitive side of me. But as a child, I was an actor on the radio, and I also was the kid that was always in the plays, the lead. I'm a ham and sort of, I guess, yeah, I'm going to say it. I am. I'm a kind of a ham.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I was a shower singer, like a lot of us. You get in the car and you sing. To me, singing is beautiful. When I wrote the children's book, Be Friendship Focused, and I was speaking at all those national conferences, I thought, what on the scary meter is scarier than getting up in front of a room full of people? Well, I guess skydiving and bungee cord jumping, yeah, but what about that singing in front of people thing? Oh my, yeah, that would be really, really scary. So I went home after speaking at one of the conferences, and I signed up for a group singing class called Finding Your Voice.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher was amazing. You didn't even get to choose your song. She chose it for you. And then at the end of, say, 6 or 8 weeks, we would go to the Comedy Palace or some place, some venue, and sing. And it was so therapeutic for me, because think about it. When you're singing, you're not thinking about anything else. You are setting yourself free. At least I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyhow, so with the book being out there, and I was traveling and going to different mastermind trainings to how to brand what I do, because it is a novel thing. I was in Las Vegas, and I was actually at Liberace Mansion having dinner, and met this woman who is a beautiful singer-songwriter. And we were talking, and I said, that's a dream of mine. I've written songs. I sang with an R&B band for a while. I wrote a poem about the band leader's daughter or granddaughter who was 6, who had a very terminal illness.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of the poem, I wrote my first song, which had nothing to do with her. And by the way, her name was Patience, and I was just so spellbound by that name. So I wrote my first song, which is Up in Smoke, has nothing to do with Cheech and Chong, but the band leader loved it, and I was encouraged. He gave me permission. So I wrote several songs. I shared them with this songwriter, singer at the Liberace Mansion, and she was very impressed, and she introduced me to these fabulous musicians who have won awards, the brothers Corin. They're from Australia. They loved my songs, and voila, I have now created my first album where I've 10 songs that I wrote and sing.
Wow.
My stage name, my performer's name. Right. I decided Christine Grant sounded too much like I don't know.
Amy Grant, yeah.
Well, not like an Amy's kind of cute, Amy, but Christine Grant sounds like a therapist or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, the only thing that comes to my mind, well, there's a couple there, but like there was an old Kiss song about Christine.
Well, I was going to do, my middle name is Rose. So I was going to do Christine Rose. And then I found out that was taken by a Playboy bunny. And again, I spell my name with a K, and so did she. So, I have a whole group of friends from Mexico, and those Latina friends always called me Tina.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, that's a derivative. So I'm Tina Rose.
Okay.
And little did I know that Leon Russell's daughter is Tina Rose. So, but I'm not Tina Rose Russell, just FYI. But the album, well, gee, it is called Love Letters.
Imagine
I wonder
that.
why. Imagine that, right? Because every song it's a letter. It's a song from the heart. And it's about real life scenarios that me as a woman have gone through myself, emotional set points, or have known others to do that, to have different emotional complexies and such. So, yeah, so I'm loving it. The music is well, I like it, or I wouldn't put it out there. So I'll just put it that way.
So where can a listener get a hold of Tina Rose's album?
Okay. So it's including on iHeartRadio, believe it or not.
Okay.
It's on all the other platforms, such as Pandora, Spotify, all of it.
Great.
And also, I have a website for the song, which I'm giving away. Can I give my little gift on that?
Absolutely. Please
Okay.
do.
All right. So I'm giving a free song to anyone who would like to sign up in my website, which is tinarosemusic.com.
Okay.
And you can, sign. You'll be on my newsletter list if you'd like. But if you do so, you will be gifted a free download of one of the songs.
All right.
I think this month it's Soul Glow is the name of the song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna all have to go out there right after while we're listening. I can't do that while I'm conducting the interview, but I certainly will. That's for sure.
Yeah. So if you like a little R&B-ish, a
Okay.
little jazz, I've got this Chris Del Camino in a saxophone that is unbelievable on about 3 of the songs.
Nice.
There's a jazz violinist, Jamie Shadowlight, who does beautiful violin work on a couple songs. And the brothers Corin, they were the front band for Bon Jovi and Pink and Rod Stewart and Coldplay.
Okay.
So they're no lightweights. They're fabulous, fabulous people, all of them. So it was just a joyful, fun bucket list to fill experience. I'm loving it. Yeah.
All right. Well, you just created the perfect segue for me, because at the end of every one of my episodes, we always talk about a bucket list, and you have obviously lived a lot of those. Okay. But in the universe, there's an opposite of everything. So things we love and want to do. And then there's a list of things that we don't want to do or have no interest in it. And then so that list, it rhymes with bucket and starts with an F, but I'm not going to say that. Okay. So everybody has one of those F it lists. Okay. And what might be something on Kristine's F it list? I'm not doing that.
That's a question for me?
That is a question for you. What might be on your F it list? I'm not going to do it. Now, I'll give you a simple, like prime the pump here. Okay.
Okay. Gosh, now I'm intrigued. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the next time someone talks about a bucket list, you're going to think differently. Again, you're going to remember this conversation. So for me, an item on my bucket list, and then people who listen all the time, we're going to know, I'm not eating any more sardines. I've done that once. I tried it. I'm not opening up a tin and looking at dead fish, which is basically botulism in a can in my idea. That's my perception. I'm not eating sardines. Okay. I'm not going back to Mexico City. Been there once, had guns stuck in my ribs while going to a professional meeting. I'm not going to do that again. So what might be 1 or 2 items that's on your opposite of a bucket list, the F it list?
Okay.
See, you've told us a lot about yourself today.
Yeah. Okay.
And this tells us something about you too.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to dive into this just for a second here.
It could be a fear.
Okay.
It could be something I have no interest in. It could be a food I hate or don't ever want to taste again. It could be anything. Mm-hmm. It might be, I'm never going back on Rex's show.
No, never. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. I got one for you.
All right.
And this one is very, very revealing.
Okay.
And, so I'm being real here.
All right.
And
our show is always about authenticity. I mean, we're always authentic.
Okay. And just FYI, the dump truck for the trash is coming right now. Can you hear it? Hopefully not.
We're good.
Or was that some sign from the universe
throwing
the trash out? Okay, so
let's hear this. Let's hear this revealing F it list item, please.
Okay, so I'm single right now, and I would love to fall in love again. Mm-hmm. And so someone contacted me, and to be honest, before trying to quote unquote market myself. I wasn't much into social media. I wasn't one of those people that went into the rabbit hole on Facebook and those sites. And, I'd much rather be jogging on the beach or doing something else.
Sure.
But with COVID, when we had the initial lockdown, someone had contacted me on Facebook, a very, very handsome, seemingly lovely man. And I didn't even realize you could get someone's phone number. That's how, out of touch I was with Facebook and such. Anyway, he somehow got my number and he messaged me and he asked me if he could call me, and he sounded very nice. And so we had wonderful conversations on the phone, and he seemed to line up just exactly with someone I would be interested in really meeting. Mm-hmm. And so we set the time. He lives about an hour away in Newport Beach. Mm-hmm. So we set a time to meet. He has a timeshare not far from where I live. So he said that way, he could have a place to stay, and, just total gentleman. Everything's cool. He stood me up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I started sharing that. I mean, just like cold, that was it. There was no communication. It was like I was dropped like a brick. And to me, it had no rhyme or reason. They're like, what the heck? And so other friends said, you were ghosted. And I said, what? Yeah. They call it ghosting. This is a trend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Really? And I was like, so I ended up writing a song, and it's called Calling You Out. You'll have to look it up.
All right. All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's for anybody that's ever been ghosted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. You might like it. Okay. If you haven't been ghosted, you like the music anyway. Just the message might not be for you.
Okay.
So my effort list is never to be more discerning when it comes to people that you meet, and really we want to get to know. I mean, and I thought I did. We spoke about what are your values and all of those things. I coach people on dating. I actually will rewrite your dating profile. I have a whole section in the book on that. I have a section on texting for dating, texting or teasing, it's called, and so you can get a lot of great flirting through text messages. But for me, this experience was out of the park. I had never experienced it before, and I was a bit taken back. It's like, we have this great connection. We align on everything. I gave my time and my focus and energy. I revealed myself, and I'm dropped like a hot potato. So I hope I'm still a hot potato anyway. A potato.
So I guess you just don't want to be ghosted again. Is that or be duped?
Yeah, no. So that's a line not to cross with this one. And I will be more aware is my vow. So okay. Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
I still love people. I still believe in them. And I feel that those out of sync behaviors are fear-based.
Sure.
Okay. So I leave it at that.
Well, you've been very generous with your time today, and I am going to have you back. And in fact, I'm going to ask you to rebook pretty quickly because there's lots to unpack. You've got other books to talk about, other things you're doing. I am going to hunt down your music. We're going to tell everybody to please go out to tinarosemusic.com, and then you can also go get her book at KristineGrant.com, spelled with a K, Christine with a K. So thanks for coming on. It's been very enjoyable to get your story today. I always have this philosophy, I share it all the time, is I believe that I have too many interests for just one lifetime. And around every corner is another discovery. And so you've been a great discovery today, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing that, because it's an inspiration when people get to see what successful people are doing out there, because everybody kind of we play that dumb game called the comparison game. You know, I'm not doing this or that, and I see these other people. And then when people who are successful are revealed and they share their stories, it motivates a lot of people to do things that they may not have ever attempted to do before. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Oh, I'm glad to have a voice for encouraging everyone out there to, yeah, go back into when you were a little kid, what you absolutely loved doing, which was natural to you then, and see if you can manifest something right now that draws upon that.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, thanks very much, Christine. Great to have you on. We will have you back as quick as possible. And until next time, I just want to say thank you for tuning in and listening, sharing this quality time with us. Please give us a star rating when you get a chance. And the last thing to always say, please don't forget to visit the website, rexandrewshow.com, because all the bios are out there. And so be safe, be bold, and make it a great day.